Ahoy friends, welcome to Building the Alpha Dory. This is a video series chronicling the construction of a Chamberlain-style racing dory from John Gardner's The Dory Book, illustrations by Sam Manning. Today we'll be out in the shop putting in the centerboard box. Let's get out there and get to it. Alright, so we'll try and keep this video as short and sweet as possible. Pretty much just going to be putting the centerboard box in. So, yeah, I guess, so the difference with the traditional centerboard box, so we're building this, this is kind of a hybrid dory that I'm building. I've done a lot of it quite traditionally, but then we're building the centerboard box, the rudder out of plywood. So that's definitely not traditional. The original centerboard and centerboard box were assembled out of the box was pine or cedar planking, and the centerboard was oak planks, pinned together with galvanized iron drifts through the planks. So so that's quite different right there. And then like I was saying, the box itself we're making this out of plywood, which is a real sort of easy way to eliminate leaks in the box, which centerboard boxes were famous for leaking over the years, as they aged and whatnot. So what else have we done? Well, the rails, we glued the rails together as well as nailed them, which will increase the rigidity of the boat quite a bit. So we're doing a number of things that aren't exactly traditional here. But so the centerboard box traditionally would be nailed in from the bottom, and the logs that make up the ends of the box would continue down through the slot, and the end grain of those logs was exposed onto the outside of the boat. So we don't have any logs going through the bottom here, which actually gives us more surface to glue with, and also it makes the fiberglassing easier and harder to damage, because if those logs are going through to the bottom of the boat, and that's where the joint is between the log and the bottom of the boat, then the fiberglass covers that. You'll see we're going to lap fiberglass up inside and over the edges of the box. So that's going to be like another layer of waterproofing between the box and the outside. So if those logs go through, then your joint is on the outside bottom of the boat, where if the fiberglass gets worn away on that little area, which is it's fairly exposed, it's up towards the front of the boat on the bottom, so like if you're pulling up onto a beach or whatever it is, it wouldn't be the first thing to hit, but it could get worn eventually. So this puts that seam, keeps that seam back up inside the centerboard slot, so that you're never going to be rubbing any part of your centerboard box seam joint, on a rocky beach, or on the sandy beach or whatever. So anyway, not a huge deal, but it's just something to keep in mind. So the old time boards the log would have gone through the bottom, and then up in the slot, the log was fastened into the end grain of the bottom planking, which kind of was a great way to anchor it when you were just using nails to hold the box in. And then also you're able to caulk the bottom with the cotton caulking against the front edge of that, where that log's going down through. It gave you a good surface to caulk tightly, whereas if you were just caulking all the way around this joint here, you'd basically be lifting the centerboard box off the bottom of the boat. So it made a lot of sense when for a traditional building method, but this way it's doesn't make much sense at this point, the way we're doing it. So, alright, there's the glue on the bottom. Now let's get some glue on the box. Make sure and get plenty of glue on the end grain here where it's going to soak in, and on the plywood. And then what we'll do is mix up a bit of filler to lay on top of the layer of glue we put on here. So the glue is going to really soak in and penetrate the wood grain, and then we'll put some glue with filler in it. Run it along the seam so that we get a bit of squeeze out when we put the box down, and that will ensure that we get a nice tight joint. And then, like I say, we're going to lap glass over from the inside, from the bottom of the boat onto the inside of the box, one layer of glass, and then we'll also nail the box in from the bottom of the boat, just like was done traditionally. We'll go right along the edge of the box up into the box logs, that we glued on these logs here. We'll nail up into those with ring nails as well, so it'll be glued and screwed, so to speak. Glued and nailed in this case. Alright, so I'll go let me mix up some of the filler, and we'll be ready to start in. See if I can get out of the boat without knocking something over. Ta-da! Alright, probably not going to need that much filler, so I'll pour some of what's here back into the glue jug. I'm just going to use a wood flower filler. See if that does it. We can always make more. It's tough to make less filler. Once you got the sawdust in it, it's kind of is what it is. And I don't want to make this too thick because I want to make it very easily compressible. But I don't want to make it so thin that it'll run out of any possible gaps. You know, I want it to have a gap filling ability just in case there is a gap. Which is, you know, there's got to be a gap somewhere, some sort of a gap. So, but I want it to pretty much squeeze out easily because I don't want this filler to hold the board off the bottom of the boat either. Yeah, so it's pretty soft. That's how we want it. I just want a really thin layer of this all along. Just a little something, something to squeeze out. And it'll, if it's looking a little bit thick right now, it'll actually get more liquidy from the glue that we already painted on the centerboard box because that's still wet. Got a little bit of a knot hole there, so I'll make sure to fill that up with the same stuff. Just the edge of a knot hole. And when we're gluing this in place, I'll probably brace it against the ceiling to make sure that there's plenty of pressure applied to it. And we'll take a few minutes to line it up, make sure it's vertical, and the cuts we made in the frame, number 2 frame, and in the centerboard cleats basically align it front to back in the boat. So we took our time last video when we were cutting those last 2 videos. We took our time to make sure that the board was aligned front to back. So at this point we don't really need to worry about that alignment because the board, you know, it is what it is at this point. We've set that alignment, and you know, the idea is to get it right before you when you cut the cleats. Alright, well that's plenty of goop on there. Now let's see how it squirts out. Squirts and squishes. And we used most of what was in there, so. Okay, the other thing, yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll just set it in and then I'll worry about what I'm going to brace it with off the ceiling after the fact. Oh, one more little bit. I'm going to get a little bit of, no, there's actually still plenty of glue on the brush. So I'm going to glue the front edge of the, I'll pour a little on the brush, front edge of the box, because the front edge of the box is tied up against the back side of the number 1 frame. So I'll put some glue on here too, soak it into the end grain. And put a little bit of, put some of the filler we made on that as well to take up any inconsistencies that might be up along the front edge of the box. Alright, looks good. Let's get this box in the boat. This is a big step to getting us sailing. See if I can get in the boat without tipping everything over. I've got 2 of the 3 props in, so the boat shouldn't tip over on me. Here's hoping. We got the center prop out, but yeah. Okay. There goes. Yoink. Good, it's squeezing out. Yeah, very nice. Alright, so now what I'll do is I'll get some sticks, prop it, stick it in from above, and we should be good to go here. We'll just let it dry for probably 2 or 3 days just to make sure. And yeah, you can see the squeeze out there. And yeah, make sure it's all aligned and everything, and then I'll bring you back once I've got it propped against the bottom. Okay, so I've got a little kickstick in to the ceiling, which is applying a bit of pressure. Like, I've got everything lined up, so I don't want to go crazy with applying pressure and push things out of alignment. But we'll get right back here to the transom. And so you can see from this side, bring yourself into the center line. You can see the side of the board is pretty well lined up with the stem. It's a little bit off because we're looking at an angle. And then when you look at it on this side, the board's a tiny bit off the stem because we're looking at an angle as well. And it's off by the same amount. So, you know, it's canted in one direction looking at it from one side, it's canted in the other from looking at the other. So that means we're you know, pretty much on the center line because it's off by the same amount to our eye. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Last thing we want to do is grab a wet cloth and just clean up these edges. I've already gone over them with my finger, but the wet cloth will smooth those glue edges in, so that and I may actually grab a little rubber squeegee and collect some of that glue too before I smooth it in. Yeah, I'll do that right now. But that definitely the more cleanup you can do while stuff is wet. It's the exact same way with epoxy. We're using Type Bond 3 here, but if you were doing this with, so I got this little squeegee that'll let me get into all but the very edge that I want to leave, and I can just clean up the wood quite easily. And there'll be a lot less cleanup this way when once everything's dry. Yeah, so it looks good. We got a good fit and squeeze out all around on the glue. So if there is any slight gap in the fit, that glue takes up the gap, and then when we nail the bottom on, when we nail the box through the bottom, it'll just, the glue will already be hard, so, but it'll just tighten up on that nice smooth glue surface that we've made. This is a huge sort of revolution that's occurred in gluing technology, since the original Alpha doors were out on Beverly Harbor and Marblehead and off the ocean ledges and whatnot out there racing around. So we're taking full use, making full use of the modern materials while trying to maintain a fairly traditional construction method. This will help the boat live on a trailer, and it won't, the centerboard box won't need to swell up so it doesn't leak each time you launch it. Not that dories, if you're going to do any straight full-on old-time construction method, probably the dory would be far and away the best method to use, because these boats really were developed to be beach boats. So they were designed to go in and out of the water with ease and not sink when they did. So it's a very trailer friendly traditional construction method, and then just when you put modern materials with it, it's that much better. So alright, so I think we got this pretty well cleaned up. I think I will damp a rag and just go over it anyway. Hopefully I don't mess stuff up. It's looking pretty good right now. Oh, should I just leave it? Just leave well enough alone. I'll do a little bit and see if the rag cleans things up anymore, or if I'm just making a mess. But that is a nice thing about this glue, is it's water cleanup. And if you've got a wet rag, it'll kind of slick over rough spots and not stick to the rag. See how we do here. Oh yeah, even better. I'm more trying to get the stuff along the edges of I left. I really don't want to take off much more putty than what I already did. Yeah, that's a good cleanup. Alright, so yeah, so I think you guys get the idea of it. The big thing is just taking your time when you're cutting the frames and the cleats, because like I said, that's where you get your line up front to back. And you know, once you cut those cleats, I suppose you could always make up for your mistakes somehow, but it takes time it's well worthwhile taking time to get the cleats cut just right, because now I can drop the board in the centerboard box without having to worry about lining it up front to back. I'm just worried about its verticality plumb to the bottom of the boat. And yeah, and to some degree I solved that question by cutting the bottom of the box flat. You know, take your time making sure that one side of the box isn't a little bit higher or lower than the other. And you know, that definitely pays off too, because otherwise you got a gap on one side that you're trying to fill with lots of putty, which isn't a good situation to be in either. So, all right. Well, I think you guys get the picture. So, yeah, next project on the boat is we'll be able to lay a straight edge in on top of the box here, and we'll get some seat locations. And once we know where the seats are going to have to, the height of the seats, then we can cut a seat riser that'll go in here and come up to and install it right at what we want as the seat height. And so these front two seats, the height of these seats are kind of dictated by the height of the box. And then the curvature of the seat riser is what dictates the seat height for the third and fourth frames. And so we want to keep the seats all the same height, but we're going to have to cut a curved riser to do that. So yeah, it should be fun seeing how we get that figured out. Thanks so much for stopping by Building the Alpha Dory. Massive thank you to everyone who's liked, subscribed, and supported the channel. And I look forward to seeing everyone next episode and in the comments section. See ya. Have a great day.